Is it on slideshow before I start?
We can see it, but I can't really see whether it's on slideshow.
Yeah, it's full screen.
Yes, it's full screen, so I think it's on slideshow.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. As you have heard the introduction being made, I'm Dr. Hamida Ahmed. I am a clinical psychologist, a consultant psychologist, and I'll be presenting today's session. And of course, today we are focusing on, the toxic work environment. As you can see, just a simple explanation there, that a toxic work environment is a workplace culture that normalizes harmful behaviors such as gaslighting, bullying, favoritism, and manipulation. You apply for a job and you qualify, and you're going there because of your skills, of your knowledge, of your experience, but you go there and you find that you are struggling to deliver because the work environment is not conducive. Yeah, it is toxic, So the other explanation of the workplace, a toxic workplace, is also characterized by behaviors, attitudes, or practices that cause significant stress. So you have applied for this job, you have gone there, and then suddenly you start experiencing stress. You feel like you are being harmed, and you're very, very uncomfortable, being part of that organization. So what are some of the signs of a toxic work environment? Yeah, if you hear of an organization that has a high turnover, why are people leaving? Ask yourself, if you're looking for a job, and because as much as the employer is researching, it wants the best, you as an employee, you also have a right to have the best. You need to do your own research. If you hear that an organization has high turnover, ask yourself, what is this that is making people leave? Because if it is a good place, people will stay as much as possible, High turnover, incidences of gaslighting. Many of you know what gaslighting is, bullying, poor work-life balance. Wow, I have had people, some of my clients who have ridiculous work-life balances because of the demands at the office. I have some of the employees who work hours of overtime without any compensation, just because there's a lot of fear. You cannot speak up. You have to do what you're told to do. And because of the fear of losing the job, you end up spending so much time at the workplace, which of course affects the other areas of your life. Lack of career growth opportunities. You go there expecting to grow up the ladder, but there are no such opportunities. You're still at the same entry point that you entered, which can be very frustrating, Poor communication. Sometimes there's restructuring at the organization. Nobody talks to you about it. You just wake up one morning and find, oh, we have new people in the office, or we have a new paint color on the walls. Even those basic small things, they matter. If you involve employees, they feel like they are part and parcel of the organization. Low engagement and low morale. It's like nobody is paying attention to how much you bring on board. Nobody appreciates, nobody recognizes, that kills your morale. Feeling burnt out, meaning that because the workplace is very toxic, you are literally, pushing yourself in order for you to survive in such an environment. Constantly feeling tired, feeling angry, lack of motivation. That's how burnout looks like. Ineffective leadership. Yeah, that's a huge one. If you find that you have leadership that has challenges, they don't even know how to communicate with the employees, or they are rude, or they take advantage of the employees, or they don't even listen to the employees, that is a problem. Unfair office politics. Yeah, we have some offices, unfortunately, where there's just too much drama, too much office politics. Yeah, and you may find that this is affecting you, and people have cliques. I have, from my own experience working with the workplaces, sometimes we have offices where they have cliques, and there are some cliques which are favored because they are connected to a certain supervisor or a certain leader, and somebody who doesn't belong to that clique is disadvantaged, and also, of course, the issue of discrimination. Okay, so I wanted to break this down to the signs and symptoms in different ways: behavioral, emotional, physical, so that you can be able to understand yourself. Yeah. If you're talking about the behavioral indicators of a toxic workplace, is micromanagement. Somebody has given you a job because you are qualified to do the job, but they are constantly hovering on top of you, trying to see what you're doing, what you're not doing, constantly correcting you, excessive control over how work is done. So you may find even your self-confidence might start going down because you are never sure when this supervisor is going to show up and correct you. When you give somebody a job because they are qualified, it is very important to give them that conducive space, environment, so that they can be able to perform. Lack of recognition, little to no acknowledgement of employees' contributions. Maybe you have this employee who is so good at writing proposals, and they've written a very good proposal. It has gone through, and you have won this tender that has millions or even billions of money, but you don't even acknowledge this employee for their contribution. We as human beings thrive on validation. When you talk to somebody, when somebody does something, even your own child, when they clean the utensils and they've not cleaned them well, yeah, the first thing you should say is, you've done a good job, and then correct them. We all want to be acknowledged to some level, okay? Unhealthy competition, pitting employees against each other, telling this employee, oh, how come you cannot do the way John does his job, and putting them in a position that they have to compete as opposed to collaborate. Because it's, by the end of the day, it is not about an individual winning in a workplace. It is about teamwork and team success. That is what lasts long. Okay? Blame culture, blaming individuals for failures instead of focusing on solutions. When somebody makes a mistake, now it is like hell has come down. Yeah? You focus on that. What about when this same employee does amazing work? Do you even pay them that compliment? So the blame culture, if you go to an organization where people are constantly getting blamed, that's not a healthy side. Okay? Emotional indicators, constant stress and anxiety, feeling tense or anxious at work. You've gone to this organization, and suddenly your stress levels, your anxiety levels shoot. You are constantly anxious because the place is so unpredictable. Each day is so different, not because of the work, but because of the culture of the place, how you are treated. You are having anxiety. Your belief in yourself is becoming low, okay? Isolation, feeling excluded from team activities or decisions. It's like, you're just a piece of furniture by the end of the day in that organization, because things get done, decisions get made, and you are completely in the dark. It is very, very, very unfair. It is important to include everybody because it's about teamwork. But when you exclude somebody, when I go to a workplace and things are happening and nobody is telling me, how does that make me feel? I feel rejected. I feel lonely. I feel unwanted. I feel not validated. I feel like, am I even supposed to be here? Fear of speaking up, worrying about retaliation for voicing concerns. We have organizations that, like here in Kenya, we say selling fear, that are very good at selling fear to its employees. even if a system is broken, even if things are not working, you have no right. You have no right to speak up. When you have an organization like that, even when people look for jobs and disappear, they will not tell you. The same way, you need to create a conducive environment where people are able to voice their concerns, because there is no perfect organization, just the same way that there is no perfect home. There's no, nothing is perfect. It's about learning and growing. Yeah. Physical indicators. What do you start noticing? Wow, people are calling in sick all the time. Today it is John, tomorrow it is Mary. And sometimes even, people will tell me in my sessions, I was not sick, but I didn't want to go. I just don't want to be in that space. Yeah. So when you find that there's a level of absenteeism, you need to ask yourself, what is going on? Health issues, because of the level. Remember, by the end of the day, all these things are happening. And the more you stay in that organization, the more it starts affecting you physically, it affects you psychologically. So you may find yourself starting to have symptoms like headaches every time, even if it is on a Sunday, because they tell me, especially on a Sunday evening, when you remember that you are going to that workplace tomorrow morning, you get an instant headache. When you wake up in the morning, even if you slept for 10 hours, you feel so tired already. So if you're feeling tired on a Monday morning, tell me how you're going to be feeling by Friday evening, insomnia. Sometimes people struggle with lack of sleep because they're constantly thinking about what is happening at the workplace, the anxiety, deadlines that they have not met, not because of their own fault, but it's just because of the way the system, is designed. I have people who work, they very late at night. Some of them will even wake up at 2, at 3 in the morning to complete tasks. They are constantly working. And you see this person starting to shrink. They are not the same person who went to that organization, sadly. Because by the end of the day, we are human beings. We must be able to balance. If somebody is just working constantly because maybe this organization doesn't want to employ more people, or there's this particular supervisor who pushes everything to you so that you can fail, then there's a problem. Okay. So what happens, to employees? There is, of course, the increased stress and burnout. And I have to state this. Maybe one day we'll talk about burnout. Burnout is real. Burnout is a real psychological concern. People struggle with burnout, where they feel angry all the time, they're sad all the time, they are constantly fatigued, their level of motivation is down, they are literally just pulling themselves to even move, Of course, if somebody is burnt out, what do you expect? Reduced productivity. By the end of the day, the employees are just working to tick a box so that they can get their pay, not because they are motivated to be productive for the organization. They're just doing it because we are asking them to. Of course, if this goes on again, then there's the risk of having mental health issues like depression and anxiety and many other, mental health concerns. Okay, I wanted to share this continuum of stress. A little bit of stress is good for all of us, Stress is not a bad thing. Sometimes maybe you have met this beautiful, young lady and you want to get married, or you met this tall, dark and handsome young man that you want to marry, and you plan a wedding. What happens? Yeah? Planning a wedding is stressful, but by the end of the day, it's for a beautiful thing. So stress is not a bad thing, But when there's no stress, of course, there's no underperformance. When you feel no push, there's underperformance. But when there's a little bit of stress, you start feeling like, okay, you need to do something. And when you have just healthy levels of stress, that's where you are at your optimal performance. You're doing a great job. You're pushing yourself to do your best. But if there are unhealthy stress levels, then you start going to this orange side, which to us as mental health professionals is a concern. This is now you're going into danger. Yeah, because remember, you're not a superman or a superwoman by the end of the day. You're just a human being. Yeah. So you may find that this is a point of concern. There is impaired performance. You find people making very careless mistakes, not because they don't know, but because they are overwhelmed. Remember, when you're feeling so much stressed, your brain is also affected. Your thinking is also affected. Your memory is also affected. So you may find yourself doing very silly mistakes, things that maybe you never used to do, severely diminished performance. The more you get stressed, the more, before you reach this point of burnout, and also mental health concerns. Yes, if you reach at this end, trust me, you're going to be, if you're lucky enough to have a psychologist or a counselor working with you, you'll be going to them, right? Because of the level of stress, yeah? And how does stress show up in us? If it is physical, you may start experiencing a lot of headaches. Because your immunity is low, then getting frequent infections. You have a flu today, next week you have another infection. If there's a flu going around or there's this viral infection going around, it gets you because your immunity is very low. Okay? Muscular twitches, fatigue, skin irritations, breathlessness. Yeah? Can you imagine, this was a healthy person coming into this organization. Suddenly they're experiencing all these things because of a toxic work environment, mentally you're always worrying, always scared. And of course, if you're in an organization that sells fear, creates a very fearful environment where people are walking on eggshells, people are getting fired left, right, and center, and maybe you're somebody with a family, you're constantly scared that you may be the next victim, then you're constantly worried, muddled thinking, not clear thinking, impaired judgment, you are making mistakes, If you're working maybe in a factory that has machines, that means you're also in danger. You might, end up harming yourself. Having nightmares, indecisions, being not very decisive. You're thinking like this, you're thinking like this, negativity. You become a very negative person yourself. You go home because you have no power at the workplace to channel your negativity. Now you're going home. You are shouting at your husband, shouting at the house girl, shouting at your children, just very negative, or hasty decisions. You're just making decisions without thinking them through. Emotionally, then what happens to you? You used to be a very confident person. I remember this one particular person who said, I used to speak very good English, but now I cannot even construct a proper sentence because of who I have become, because of being bullied at the workplace, loss of confidence, you are more fussy, very easily irritable, feeling depressed, apathy, you alienate yourself, apprehension. Behavior-wise, you may now be very prone to accidents because remember, your memory is not very clear. Your thinking is all over the place. Loss of appetite. Some of the people, then their appetite is gone. And you meet them, they have lost 20 kgs. You're like, are you okay? What happened? And it is all because of the workplace. Somebody is losing weight. Another person who comfort eats, is growing very big. And in Africa, we think, oh, because you look big, you must be happy, eh? It's like, oh, you seem happy, you're very healthy. Yeah? No, it's because I'm eating, KFC or I don't know what, before I even go home to make supper. Yeah, I'm constantly, hungry. And what does it mean? I'm constantly hungry because I use food to numb, to calm myself, to make myself, to soothe myself with food. Other people soothe themselves with what? Alcohol, weed, cigarettes, a lot of unprotected sex, just, things that are not supposed to be happening, okay? Other people, on the other hand, have loss of sex drive. And this, of course, if they're in a relationship, this will have an impact. You may find that if it is a man, then their wife's needs, sexual needs are not being met. If it is a woman, then their husband is constantly complaining and maybe threatening that, I will go and look for another woman out there. Can you see? It was just work, but now it is spilling over to the other areas of your life. Some people, like I've said, they end up, if they used to drink 2 beers, now they're drinking 6 beers that they cannot maybe even afford. Yeah. Insomnia, lack of sleep. Other people sleep way too much. You may find that somebody is struggling with sleep in the sense that they're able to go to sleep, but they will wake up at 1 in the morning and they cannot go back to sleep until 5, when they're now feeling very sleepy and they have to be at work by 7:30. So this person's cycle, you can see it is very unhealthy, Restlessness, somebody who used to be very sure of themselves, now they are constantly looking like they're they're all over the place, they're restless, smoking more and all that. So what can we do? What can we do? So strategies for navigating a toxic workplace, for me as an individual, first of all, is to protect my mental and emotional well-being by setting boundaries. And I know that we have organizations, of course, which are toxic and they don't allow you to be able to set boundaries, but you have to find a way to set, the boundaries that you can. Clearly define what is acceptable and what is unacceptable in your interactions with your colleagues and supervisors. Yeah. What is it that is going on at the workplace that you should not be doing? We have sometimes people who constantly push work to you, yeah, which they shouldn't. For example, maybe there's a lazy supervisor somewhere who is constantly making you do her work or his work. Being able to say no, yeah. I have had, clients who come to me and say, you know what, this boss of mine makes me do all her PowerPoints, do everything, and then she signs or he signs. Even yesterday, I had a client who was telling me that. And she was showing me, at the end there, the boss signs their name, that is their work. Your name does not appear anywhere. They use you to be able to shine. Yeah. So know what your boundaries are. At what point do you say no, for example? Yeah. Practice self-care. Remember, when you're talking about self-care, people think, oh, it's just going to the salon or getting a massage and doing what's. No, it is actually, setting time aside for yourself, exercising, having a life outside of the organization, because sometimes people identify so much with their organizations that they lose themselves. When they're out there, if you ask them who they are, they only talk about, oh, and I work at this place, this and that. No, who are you without your job? Who are you? Yeah, you need to find yourself. You need to find hobbies. You need to practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is just, having moments of silence. Learning how to say no. You don't have to say yes to everything, even if it is the social circles. You don't have to attend every wedding, every, bridal shower and all that. Yeah, you have to learn when to say no. Yeah, seek support. Talk to trusted friends. If you have, instead of keeping this, and I know sometimes, especially our men, yeah, this is where the challenge comes in. You bottle up everything and it's killing you. It's poison that you're keeping, yeah? And you're constantly angry with your wife or your children and all that, and they're watchman at the gate, and the wrong people. Yeah. So learning to find a safe space to be able to speak up about what is going on is important. You need to let it out of your system. If you have a friend or a family member who can listen, who will keep what you're telling them confidential, then it's very important for you to use them. Otherwise, if you don't have that, please use the services of a professional, because when you come to me and tell me all your business, I have no business to go out there and say, oh, John said this or Mary said this. No, it's absolutely confidential. Yeah. It's also very important to document everything. Keep records. Maintain a log of any negative interactions, incidences of harassment, or unrealistic demands. You need to write it down. The date, the time, the who, and the what was said. If it is an email, make sure you have it. The other day I was having a case where this particular employee, the supervisor sent her work, and then as she starts doing the work disappears from the email. It is recalled. So she has no track of which email was sent or what she has done. Then she gets a different email with different instructions, which is very confusing. So make sure you have a record of all these things that are happening to you. You never know when you might need them. Save emails and messages, like I said, store important communications that might be relevant if you need to report the issue, okay? By the end of the day, maintain professionalism, focus on your work, continue to deliver high quality work despite the toxic environment. Remember why you went to that organization. Do what you're supposed to do, okay? Avoid engaging in negativity, steer clear of office gossip or conflicts that could escalate tensions. Some of the toxic environments, work environments, are completely dramatic. There's so much drama, so much petty talk, a lot of gossip, which is very petty if you think about it. For you to lower yourself and to be constantly gossiping about other people, it says a lot about you as a person. It's not about the other people. Yeah, you have lowered yourself, constantly petty, constantly talking, oh, have you heard, oh, the husband, the wife, or the children. It's none of your business. Focus on what took you to work, okay? Stay positive, cultivate a positive mindset, and find motivation in your personal goals and values. By the end of the day, how you carry this is determined by you. If you have a negative mindset, then guess who is going to pay the price? You. If you struggle and have a positive mindset, for example, you can tell yourself, yes, this is tough, but I'm not here forever. So I will do my job, but I'm also doing other things out there to make sure that I'm out of this space. That's a positive mindset. Okay. Communication and conflict resolution. If there's an opportunity for you to communicate and resolve those issues at the workplace, then you need to approach with caution. When addressing issues with toxic colleagues or supervisors, be diplomatic and choose words carefully. I know at times you feel like, I wish I could just go and slap this supervisor because of how I'm feeling. Yeah, don't do that. By the end of the day, please remain professional. Because when you're talking about remaining professional or approaching with caution, we are also talking about emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is me being able to manage my own emotions. If I slap you, I cannot say, yo, you made me slap you. No. I frustrated you. You slapped me. Those are two different things. Be diplomatic, choose your words carefully. Use I statements. This is a very good strategy when it comes to communication. When you did A, B, C, D, this is how it made me feel. I'm talking about my feeling. I'm not saying, oh, you made me angry. You did this. When you do that, then the other person becomes very defensive. They're ready to also attack. But when you say, you know, when this happened, you're quoting an incident that happened, and also you're talking about how you felt. You are not saying you. So the use of I statements, that is very important. Frame your concerns in a non-confrontational way. I feel overwhelmed when, you know. Seek mediation if there's that room, if possible, involve a neutral third party, a HR, a manager, to help to mediate conflicts. Know when to step back. Recognize when a situation is beyond your control and avoid further engagement. Because there's sometimes you have people who, it's like speaking to a wall. They will never change. If that is the case, then just acknowledge that and then plan a plan B for yourself. It's important for us to know what our rights are, know your rights, and when to report. You need to understand workplace policies. Some of you go to organizations and they don't know what the policies look like. They only hear the HR say or the manager say, but you have never maybe gone to the website or asked the HR for the policies so that you can go through them. What do they say? Where are the boundaries? How are you protected? So familiarize yourself with your organizational policies on harassment, discrimination, and workplace behavior. And of course, we know things are different nowadays. Organizations are scared. People are scared. They know that they can be sued or their name can be, you know, tarnished if they don't treat people the right way. Identify resources, know where to go for help, such as your HR or employee assistance programs, or even legal counsel. Maybe you know, sometimes people are in situations where they need a lawyer. Just do your research, get to know how, where, when, you know. Reporting issues. If the situation does not improve, consider formally reporting the toxic behavior or use your, this is where you use your documentation, you know, as evidence. If you try doing the exact same thing and you're getting the exact same results, maybe it's time to exit, you know? So exploring exit strategies, assess the situation, determine if the toxic environment is something you can manage or it's time for me to leave. Because by the end of the day, it's my life. My life is not determined by the organization. I am not on this planet because of that organization. I have my own, I need to separate myself from the organization. If this organization is not working for me, maybe it's time for me to exit. So plan your exit, update your resume, your CV, prepare your CV and LinkedIn profile, network, reach out to contacts in your industry for potential opportunities, look up, you know, job searches, and also one thing that people struggle with, and I also know when I used to be employed, I mean, living on good terms. Sometimes people have tortured you so much, you feel like not to even say goodbye, you know? But if possible, just, you know, the same diplomacy we're talking about, maybe you can use it here, you know, living on good terms. If you decide to resign, do so professionally and avoid burning bridges, yeah? How can we equip ourselves, you know, as individuals? Building resilience for the future. Learn from the experience. Reflect on what you have learned from navigating a toxic workplace. Develop coping skills. Build resilience through stress management techniques and emotional intelligence. Seek positive work environments. If you already know that a certain environment is so toxic, I think unless you completely you are backed at the corner, please, I mean, take up positive environment as much as possible. Prioritize finding a healthy workplace. Support systems and resources, internal support, utilize your organization resources such as HR, we have said the EAP and wellness programs. External resources, you can go to a therapist or a counselor, you know, basically seeking professional mental health support. Legal advice, if necessary, consult with a lawyer to understand your rights. Support networks, join professional groups or communities for advice and support. Okay. I just put this wellness wheel here to remind you that we have different areas in our lives that are important when it comes to self-care and well-being. Emotional well-being, spiritual well-being, intellectual well-being, physical well-being, environmental well-being, financial well-being, occupational well-being, and social well-being. If my occupational wellness is interfered with, it will definitely affect the other areas. It will, so we have to pay attention to the different areas. You know, if for example, you're struggling at work and you have all this stress, there's a possibility that you'll take that stress home. Your emotional wellness will be affected, physical wellness, like you have seen, even intellectual wellness, you start feeling like you're not as smart as you know that you are. Some of the self-care strategies, others are, you know, just asking for help, spending time alone, putting yourself first. Putting yourself first, I know, and especially for people who are parents, whether mothers or fathers, it is sometimes you feel so guilty if you put yourself first. It is a skill that you have to learn, that it is okay. Asking for what you need, you know, setting boundaries, staying at home, saying no, forgiving yourself, taking a step back. So, what is the impact of a toxic workplace to the employer, the person who is giving people jobs, you know? If somebody is an employer here, you know, a toxic workplace can have profound negative effects on you as well. It can impact various aspects of your organization, the performance, the culture, you know? Other things that might happen, you might experience if you have an organization, you have a business, you know, where you have employed people, you might experience, you know, high turnover, people being constantly absent, lawsuits, loss of productivity, you know, and of course, all these lead to a significant financial loss. By the end of the day, if it is a business, you're meant to make money. You will not be making that kind of money that you are hoping for if your work environment is toxic. Cultural decline, toxicity erodes the company culture, making it difficult to retain talent. We have brilliant minds, yeah? If you're lucky to have a brilliant mind in your organization and you're not creating a conducive environment for them, they will go. So you end up losing that. You know, maintaining morale, you know, and drive innovation, it's going to be very hard. Legal and reputational risks. You can imagine if this is your organization, people know, oh, this organization XYZ, oh, a toxic environment. Yeah? So the reputation is bad. Toxic environments increase the likelihood of legal issues and reputational damage. And nowadays, people are very smart. People will sue you. You mistreat an employee, they know their rights, and especially the generations, yeah, the millennials, the Gen Zs. You know, you have to be careful, both of which are costly and damaging, you know, to long-term success. Dealing with a toxic environment is essential for an employer to restore productivity. You have to act. You cannot just let things stay the way they are. Otherwise, you will close shop. So some of the things that you can do, first of all, you have to recognize the problem. What is the problem? You know, you cannot solve a problem that you cannot name. You need to say, okay, I have a problem of bullying in my office, in my organization, or, you know, of gossip, or all these things, you know. So you have to call it for what it is. Recognize the problem. Assess workplace culture. Employers should begin by acknowledging that toxicity exists. I am not going to bury my head in the sand. It's actually happening in my house. Yeah, this can be done through employee surveys, and people get scared of this. It's like, oh, I'm scared of what feedback I might get. But if you're genuine, you send surveys, or you do focus groups, or you create a system where there is anonymous feedback so that you can understand the root cause of dissatisfaction and toxicity. There is an organization that I'm dealing with right now, and the main issue is the manager. Everybody's complaining, but they're so scared, they're so intimidated of saying, oh, it's so and so. People are leaving the organization because of so and so. So if you create anonymous feedback, they will be able to point out, by the way, it's so and so who is making this place unlivable, okay? And as much as you know it is your organization, you need to listen to employees. Actively listening, not just saying yes, yes, yes. What are they telling me? I need to actively listen, you know, to employees and create a safe space for them to express their concern. Regular one-on-one meetings can also be helpful. Identify the sources of toxicity. Pinpoint toxic behaviors. Identify the behaviors or patterns contributing to the toxic environment. This could include bullying, harassment, poor communication, people being overworked, or unhealthy competition. Leadership responsibility. It's critical that leadership sets the tone for a positive workplace culture. Remember, you're the head. Yeah, they say that the fish starts getting spoiled from where? From the head. Yeah, when there is rot at the head, then trust me. Yeah, if there's a culture of stealing or gossip, even the person cleaning will be doing the same. Yeah, so leadership responsibility is very important. They are supposed to model healthy behaviors. They are supposed to be the one addressing toxicity promptly. Yeah, because we have sometimes in some organizations with some managers who like, you know, entertaining gossip. They have spies, they have all these people, you know. So they invite those people to their offices and they tell, you know, so and so, da, 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 da. And then they go and confront the so and so without listening to the so and so's side of the story. If you're a good manager, you will say, oh, what happened? Da, 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 da. Yeah. Oh, it's Tom who did. Okay, just wait there. Wait there. Give me a minute. I'm calling Tom. Tom, you need to come. Before we continue with this meeting, I want you to sit here and then, oh, Mary, tell me what you were saying about Tom. That behavior will end. Mary will not want to come to the office again to gossip about Tom because you have killed that culture. Yeah? Consistency is important. Consistently enforcing policies and follow through on addressing toxic behaviors. You know, if Mary has misbehaved and she has been given a certain punishment or consequence, then Tom does the exact same thing, but they are treated differently. What are you saying? What are you communicating? You know? So consistency is important. Proactive approach. Employers must adopt a proactive approach by creating an environment that values respect. You know, of course, when you're talking about the mission and vision, you know, include that we value respect, we value inclusion, you know, so that, and you practice it, you know. So basically what I'm saying, by the end of the day, you may find yourself in a toxic environment, but you're in charge of you. Your organization does not define you. You have to find a way of taking care of yourself. Yeah. And I'm talking about, you know, self-care and taking care of your own mental and emotional well-being. That is your responsibility. You need to figure out how. If the environment is too much, you need to plan your exit strategies, okay? Yeah, that's it for now.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Amida. That was so insightful. I like the way you actually took it from the beginning, right? Explaining what a toxic environment is so that we can identify and know that, okay, this environment is actually toxic. Then breaking it down to the behavior, then how we can actually tackle it. So if you have any questions, please let's start dropping our questions so that she can take our questions before we round up today. Very insightful. I had a situation whereby a friend of mine, she just joined an organization and she's a CISO, right? Reporting to the MD, but it was toxic for her. So one of the things you mentioned is the person having not happy to actually go to work. So someone at that level, waking up in the morning and she's not happy to go to work. So she immediately noticed that, okay, this is toxic for me. And it, in a way, started affecting her self-confidence in her work. So she just had to exit. So yeah, it's critical that we able to identify, because if we are able to know the problem, then it's easy to solve. Able to identify. I think we have one question. Let me see. Okay. 1 minute. Okay, let me read it. If Mary, okay, I think this was saying, it's given like analogy. Just 1 minute. I think my system, I'm trying to pick it from there. Okay. If Mary was genuinely, I think, reporting an issue that causes conflict, and you bring in Tom in okay.
Oh, I have seen the question. George Nyambori is saying, if Mary was genuinely reporting an issue that causes conflict and you bring in Tom in her presence, would that not be causing another toxicity? Yes, I was talking about gossip. You know, those people who just want, they're constantly coming to tell you gossip, but they don't want to accountability. They want to put other people in trouble, but then hide. But if somebody comes to you with a genuine issue, then it is my responsibility as a manager, as a supervisor, to protect that employee. So I will do my investigations in a very anonymous way, try to collect information and all that. But there has to be a point that Tom has to be called in. It may not necessarily be in front of Mary, but you have to find a smart way of doing the investigation without harming Mary. I was referring to the culture, killing the culture of gossip is to call the other person and say, hey, what were you saying? So that they never show up. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Hamida, can you put down your slide? Stop sharing, thank you.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I'll read the second questions now that I have. How to overcome depression while in a toxic workplace? How do we overcome depression in a toxic workplace?
Okay, when you're talking about depression, we normally talk about the severity. Sometimes somebody might be going through mild depression, and if they go for counseling or they talk to a friend, with time, the depression resolves itself. Somebody might be having mild depression, and hopefully, you know, with time, if they take care of themselves or they're talking to other people, that might be resolved to some degree. But when somebody is having severe depression, this is somebody who needs to be under the care of a doctor, a psychiatrist, and also a psychologist. So it depends. When you're feeling depressed, because many people feel depressed, please, please, please go and seek help, even if it is mild depression or not severe depression. It is okay. Talk to somebody. They will be able to do the assessment, because I cannot do an assessment during the webinar. So an assessment will be done, and then you will be advised accordingly on what needs to be done. But if a place is so bad that it is giving you depression, then it is important for you to ask yourself, what is within the circle of my control? What can I do to support myself? Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for that answer. So I have another question here. How do you deal with a supervisor who constantly threatens you, criticizes your work in the departmental meeting review, citing they only want the best, maybe inciting that they only want the best for you?
We talked about gaslighting. That is exactly what they're doing, you know? Until you're like, oh, wow. You want the best for me by putting me down in front of everybody. make it make sense. You know, just acknowledge that this is not a healthy person at the workplace for you. And like I said, somebody might go to an organization, sure of themselves, very confident, very professional, and then you meet this kind of a supervisor, and they chip away all the confidence until you become another very broken person. So are there mechanisms where you can be able to report? Do you have evidence of what you're talking about? Yeah, is it even safe for you to report this person? So each organization is different. If there are ways where you can be able to get help within the organization, go and do it. But even as you do this, are you able to speak to somebody, maybe a counselor, who can walk with you through this journey, even as you are making decisions for yourself? That can be very helpful, right? So if the organization is not changing, guess who has to change? You have to change yourself, either by staying there and taking in all the bullying and gaslighting, or literally just stepping away from that organization. By the end of the day, your life. If you're able to report this person following the right channels, that's the right thing to do. Yeah.
Okay, we normally take one question. So if anyone have a question, we'll just unmute you so that you ask the live question and Dr. Amida will be able to answer it. And while we're looking at that, so we have some comment here for you, Dr. Amida. Good job, Dr. Amida. You have done justice to the topic. Very insightful. I'm blessed, I think. Very insightful, big thumbs up. Insightful. Yeah. So if you have anyone that has, so we have a lot of thumbs up actually. So we have anyone that wants to ask a question, you can please raise your hand, then we'll take you live. We will unmute you to take your question. Okay, so I have another comment here from Latifa. Insightful session. Thank you. So on the screen, you can see our contacts. We can see our contact. So if you need to reach us, the contact on your screen, then we'll be dropping the feedback form. It will take just a few minutes of your time. Please help us to complete that so that we can serve you better going forward. It will just take 5 minutes, not up to 5 minutes actually. So maybe a few minutes of your time. So I'm going to drop it into the chat box now for everyone to fill. So, okay. Okay. So here's the feedback form. Please help us complete it before you're going to your next meeting. Okay, so we have another question here. So let me read it for you, Dr. Amida. It said, it's been 2 months, my boss terminated my appointment. Reason being that I'm focusing more on my professional development. The environment was toxic too. I'm an accountant by profession. Oh, I love this session. I'm a bit relieved. Okay, this is just more like a comment, not a question. Okay, so we have another complimentary. Say, glad I joined. Thank you. That was a great session. Thanks, Dr. Amida. So if you have anyone that wants to ask a questions live, so please just raise up your hand and we'll take your questions. So I've dropped the feedback form. Please help us to fill the feedback form. Very important. Yeah. Okay, so Dr. Amida, do you mind dropping your contact in the chat box in case people want to reach out to you for, like the person that asked the last questions? If you don't mind dropping, so we are asking, if you don't mind dropping, so that they can reach out to you. Okay. Okay, please help us to complete the feedback form. I'll drop again. I'm sure it's there as I'm saying it. Okay. So that's Dr. Amida's contact. You can reach her if you need any assistance in those areas that she spoke about. So yeah, let me just introduce my colleague, That's Purity. She's a trainer, over 15 years of experience. She's at the background. Purity, please say hello.
Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're joining us from. Welcome. I'm so proud also to be part of this. You've done a great job, Dr. Hamida. I've learned a lot that I need to name the problem. I need to be able to identify the problem and name it if I am a leader, and even for myself, that I need to be able to know what I'm dealing with. Good job, Abby. And there's also another question. Maybe you can read it. There's a question on the CEO. So welcome,
Yes, I've seen it.
everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to read. So I think it's like a follow-up questions to a question that you answered. So the person please ask if it's the CEO penetrating the toxicity, what is within the reach of employee to deal with this? So if it's coming from the management, the owner of the business, how do we deal with this?
Yeah, if the CEO is the owner of the organization, there's a chance that not much will change, but you can use still the policies that have been laid down, because each organization must at least have policies on dealing with certain things. If you're able to use that, you can. If you're able to get legal advice, you can. Or if you feel like it's too much for you and you cannot continue handling it, then you need to start planning your exit strategy, because in the long run, it is going to affect your mental health. While you are still there, you need to have a way of knowing, okay, what is my fault and what is not, because sometimes such CEOs may just throw any fault on you. That is what affects your self-esteem and everything. So you need to remind yourself who you are. I'm here because I want to make a living, but I'm not happy. I don't believe the things he's telling me. I will just be here temporarily as I look for another job. You have to find what works for you as an individual. But if the organization is never changing and you still want to be part of the organization, so you know what you're signing up for. And you have to find a way of surviving there without losing your sanity. But there's a very high possibility that the toxic environment will affect you.